Hi, how's it going? Yeah, I'm figure sharp. Just checking in. I'm now in The Hague, and I've arranged my interviews at all these institutions, and I hope we get to find out by the end of today what these institutions are all about. All right, so siyakhuluma kusasa. Sharp.
I'm in The Hague, the international city of peace and justice. Over 160 institutions are based in this city. There are Africans behind these bars, but there are some also working in the international courts. 34 African states are party to the ICC. But is this a neutral court, and is justice really being done?
I'll start with the difficult questions. All your suspects so far have been from Africa. Don't you think some people will find this rather strange?
I will be honest with you. As an African, I think that the ICC is bringing some measure of comfort to the victims in Africa. And the ICC is really building a better future for those young men and women who actually look upon us and the ICC for comfort in the future.
The Peace Palace. What a grand building. But does it serve peace and justice in African countries?
President Tomka, thank you very much for taking time off your busy schedule to talk with us. So right off the bat, do African countries bring any of their complaints here?
Yes, in particular in the last 30 years, we have seen a number of African cases being brought before the International Court of Justice.
I have a lot of friends and relatives back home in Africa who know nothing about what goes on at these institutions here in The Hague. Would you give an example of a case that they would be interested in?
Well, we resolve disputes between states. And from African cases, mostly these are cases relating to determination of boundaries.
Regarding the skepticism on the continent, is the court really a neutral court?
Certainly, this court is a neutral court, and I think African countries have also recognized that.
I think for this court, the issue of neutrality does not arise. It is a very neutral court. Neutral in the sense that when parties choose to come and bring their disputes here, they have to consent, of course. It's a very economical way of settling disputes. Economical in the sense that if you look at the cost of war, the cost of conflict as a way of settling disputes, the court, the peaceful way of settling disputes judicially through this court is a much cheaper option.
Here in The Hague, you have the ICC, you have the ICJ, and then you have the PCA. It's an alphabet soup. What is the PCA?
Well, what makes the PCA different is that we do not have a body of sitting judges. Parties to each case get to decide, the arbitrators who will decide their disputes.
And many African people now believe that the international legal order is skewed in favor of developed countries. What does the PCA have for Africa?
Well, the PCA is used by African parties. The PCA provides a neutral, independent forum for dispute resolution.
So, that was the United Nations International Court of Justice and the Permanent Court of Arbitration, settling disputes in a peaceful way. Who knows how many wars they've already prevented, saving lives and money. The Hague also hosts part of the International Criminal Tribunal on Rwanda and another court on the former Yugoslavia, the ICTY. But some of the accused war criminals brought here have been acquitted after trial. I had to ask, was justice done? I went to the ICTY to find out.
Would you like to live in a place where all the prosecutions would result in success? I would never want to work in a court where you would have 100% of success in convictions.
You're an African, and the ICTY is about Yugoslavia. What are you doing here?
The International Criminal Tribunal is an organ of the United Nations. Actually, it's come out from Chapter 7 of the United Nations Charter. As such, people who work here come from all over the world, from all countries that belong to the United Nations.
You live and work in The Hague, a city that calls itself the hub of international justice. What would you say makes this city unique?
Well, Hague is, first of all, very hospitable place to international criminal courts.
It is indeed a mecca to be here. The Hague is the international capital for international humanitarian law.
So we have reached a certain critical mass, which is create a synergy of its own.
People from all over the world are involved in international justice work here in The Hague. Legislative bodies, civil society groups, and researchers. They connect and learn from each other. But are these people really in touch with what's happening on the ground? Do victims have access to the courts? Distance is one of the reasons why not everyone has the same trust in these international courts. Why should Africans believe in them, if at all? As an African yourself, what do you say to people who are skeptical of the ICC?
I'm saying this with everything in my body, that the ICC will be taken seriously, especially by the African leaders. And I am hoping that the ICC will be given the support it needs, because the attendant problems, not only in Africa, in all countries where judiciaries are not coping and cannot cope, I think that the ICC should be embraced. And I am really looking forward to a brighter future for Africa, where there will be no pain, where there will be no tears, and where people will lead their lives in peace, especially the future generation.
It's clear that the people who work here believe passionately in the work they do. But justice has to be more than just these courts. We need to debate what peace and justice really mean for Africa, and how the work here in The Hague relates to the continent.